It started out, I was playing with my mum and dad, and we used to play the clubs and the ballrooms, playing a whole kind of mixture of music, from country music to traditional Irish music, and the odd pop song thrown in for good measure. And it was almost like an awakening for me. I went with my sister to see, I'd been playing with mum and dad that night away out in the wilds of Leitrim someplace. And I was about 17, and she said to me, I'm going to see a band play, a rock band. And I go, what? And she goes, I'm going to see a rock band, do you want to come with me? And that rock band was Horselips. And they were playing in the I remember it vividly. In fact, I spoke to Barry Devlin and Jim Lockhart from the band a week ago. We were doing some recording together, and I told them vividly, I remember them, it was in the Mayflower Ballroom in Drumshambo, County Leitrim, right? And these guys walked in, I mean, and there I am in my little three-piece suit, you know, all dickied up, all looking very presentable at all, in my Sunday best. And these guys walked in with sort of these wolves on their backs and long hair down to there and boots that stacks that high. And I thought, oh my God, what is this? And then they proceeded to get up on the stage and play.
High on the mountain, sands of fun, but all they got's a real fun. Can't see the fire, but we smell the smoke. We will take the flower, only the earth.
And I'd never seen a Leighton show before. It was unheard of in Ireland, really, at that, when I was growing up. You didn't have that. Yes, you had the big rock bands like Thin Lizzy, but they were all, they were all in the UK and in Europe playing. So no one was taking it to the kids in the country except Horselips. And they were putting on a full-blown rock show. I mean, it was mind-blowing. In your local hall, these guys were playing this kind of stuff. And I could relate to it because of the folk music interspersed within the rock music that they played. I immediately related to it because I was playing traditional folk music myself. So I always said, you know, that if it had been Led Zeppelin I went to see that night, I said, forget it, it's not for me. So I went home that night absolutely buzzing, and I told my brothers John and Tommy, now we weren't playing at this stage together. We weren't. We were, you know, so I sort of delegated out. I said to John, my brother, I said, you're going to be the singer and the bass player, and Tommy, who was the youngest, said, you're going to be the drummer, and that's just how it was. And it was purely for fun. It wasn't, there was no great let's become rock stars. We didn't know anything about it anyhow. Right, so we were completely oblivious to all of that. All we wanted to do was just get together and just jam and learn as we went along, and it very quickly escalated from there. Some people heard that we played, and the next thing we know we're up at St. Michael's playing, you know, or the Black Sabbath stuff. Yeah, really. And I mean, it was a real sharp learning curve for us as well, because we didn't know anything about these rock bands, because I'd come from an area in folk music, and I wasn't really that interested in popular music, so to speak, and rock music. But the bug really bit when we seen them play, and we realised, you know, what fun it was to do it. It was purely for fun. It was never like, oh, let's become a rock band and become really famous. That never was the motivation behind us at all. It was just to get up and jam and play together. And we used to while away the day at home. You know, you'd hear us 11 miles away playing, you know, at the volume. But it was fantastic. People thought if we wanted to be trendy, we should have followed the you know, the stiff little fingers and all the undertones. We weren't interested. We were more interested in what became known as the new wave of British heavy metal. So, you know, we were the leftovers from the Deep Purples and the Black Sabbaths, and we were into that. So we were taking it, playing it a little bit, maybe a little bit faster and a little bit more with that punk ethic a little bit. I mean, some people say that we were the perfect garage band, you know, and that's what we were. We were a garage band. You know. It was, I had been tinkering around with electric guitars. My dad, you see, was a real enthusiast, and there was this little shop over in County Fermanagh in Clonus. We used to go over to, it was called McCarthy's, and we used to buy strings and stuff like that there, and the odd instrument. But my dad was great that way, you know. We went over, myself and him, on the pretext of buying some strings, and ended up buying an electric guitar. That's just how my dad was. He was great that way, and he was so encouraging, you know. And so we went over to Johnny, and my first proper electric guitar, I would call proper one, was an Ibanez Les Paul knockoff. It looked like a Les Paul, and it was, for what it was absolutely fantastic, and it was a great instrument to get started on. So that stayed with me right up until for a couple of years, until I seen the Horselips play, and then I seen Johnny Fean was playing a Gibson, and I thought, oh, you know, maybe I should aspire to one of them. And as we were progressing and getting to know the industry and the instruments and how it worked and everything, I knew then that Gibson and Fender were the two big names. So it's very strange story here, but you couldn't get them to buy here. Yeah. You know, it was impossible, so you had to go to Belfast. You know, because you had to order them. You couldn't go in and buy them. They just didn't. They said, well, if you want one made, you're going to have to order one, you know. There was no such thing as going in and looking at a rack of guitars, you know. So I picked the cheapest option, and it was a Les Paul Deluxe, and it was a wine colour. It was beautiful, beautiful guitar. Yeah, there is pictures of me somewhere with it. And of course it had the little P90 pickups. I think they were Epiphone pickups, because Gibson actually bought Epiphone out. So they had a load of these little P90 pickups, and they put them on and called it the Les Paul Deluxe, and that's what I bought. That was my first proper named guitar, you know. And I have a sound in my head, and it's related to the violin. Because it was the first instrument that I learned to play, and I always try to, in my head, I'm trying to get a violin sound on the guitar. So it's quite a strange concept, but that's what I'm searching for all the time. And you're never really quite satisfied. I'm never really quite satisfied. I've been through so much gear, it's just unbelievable. Well, it's totally different. Let's put it that way. It's totally different, and I wouldn't say either way was easy, you know, because now with social media, that you're overwhelmed by the amount of people that are on trying to do their thing. So we were down in Tipperary playing in a town called Cahir. Out the back of this hotel, it was the ballroom, and we were booked to play in it, and there was nobody there. I mean, nobody. But we were playing like it was Wembley, and the guy happened to stop off there. Right, this is the truth. Stop off there for a meal. He was on his way down to see U2. They were a fledgling band at this stage, and he was him and Paul McGuinness, who was their manager at the time, went to university together and were great friends. And he stopped off for a meal in Cahir on his way to Cork to see U2 or whatever business meeting it set up, and heard the racket going on in the hall from the restaurant where he was eating in the hotel, and he came in to look to see what was going on, and it's us three, me, John and Tommy, belting it out. We're going for it, and he just stood there and he watched us, and he came up to us at the end of the show, and he says, I'm supposed to be in Cork now, but I actually stayed to watch you guys play. This is fantastic. He said, fantastic. Where he is from and what he is doing. And we were telling him, and he said, look, here's my card. Ring me when you guys get home. And that was the start of it. It was pure luck. You know, and you know, it's almost the same with social media today. All you need is one record exec to see something in it and hear something in it out of all the stuff that's there. Yeah. And you know, you might get plucked, and it's luck. I always say it's 10% talent and 90% luck. Exactly. Being the right place at the right time, and that genuinely happened to us. It was just being in the right place at the right time. Oh, it was just great. you know, I mean, just seeing the faces that I know, you know. I don't like the term fans. I've never liked that term. I always see them as my friends. I don't say fans. It just doesn't sit right with me. They're not fans, you know. All I do is play a bit of music. So I consider them my friends. And through social media and stuff like that, we've kept in contact, and it was great to let them know that I was going to try and do a couple of gigs during the lockdown period, which was difficult for a lot of bands, because basically that's what I do that's my career. You know, so I think the hospitality industry has been hit very badly by all of that there. But, you know, you find new ways of doing things and find ways of continuing on, and hopefully that will be, you know, we'll come out the other side of this better for it in the end, you know. And I think you only appreciate how much you value your interaction with people is when you see them face to face. You don't really realise just what it means to everybody and yourself as well, you know. So it was lovely just to be back getting back into it. Although we were a bit ring rusty, but you know, those things, the sharpness is not there. It's almost like a footballer, you know. There's little things you go to do and you just don't quite pull them off. But that happens. It gets better and better as you play more and more and more and more on the road, you know. So that sharpness wasn't there, but it was still fun to be back out playing. Yeah, I think everything comes round. You know, what goes around comes around, and I'm convinced of it. You know, if you're good enough, you'll make it through. It's as simple as that, and you won't fool the public. You know, you can have all these experts and all these managers and all these musical people who think they know it all. They know nothing. It's the people vote with what they buy and the download, and if you won't fool the ordinary person out there. They either like it, they don't know the technical terms of what they like about it, why they'll either say I like that or I don't like it. You know, and they are always the proof of the pudding. If they're buying your stuff, you'll make it through. It doesn't matter what genre it's in, you know. There's lots of bands like, I'm a big fan of the Struts. I think they're absolutely fantastic band. I think they're going to be huge. You know, he kind of reminds me of Freddie Mercury a little bit, the way that he sings. They're a great band. If you haven't heard them, check them out. They're really, really good. You know, and they're kind of a throwback to that glam era in the 70s. And they're up and running. They're doing really. You're going to hear a lot from them. Just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. If we could make it work back then, you guys can certainly make it work now. And it's all about belief. You don't have to be the greatest musician in the world. You don't have to be the greatest. It's a collective. If you're in a band and you're together, it's the collective thing that works. If we didn't believe in what we were doing, no one else was certainly going to believe in it, because you're not putting that conviction across. So I always say, just believe in what you're doing. Just believe in what you're doing, and you will. And if you really believe enough and you really want it hard enough, bad enough, you'll get there. So that's all I have to say. Just believe in yourselves, and it'll happen in some form or other.